Welcome everyone to the webinar. This topic is on how to boost your reading speed. It's important to note for this webinar you will need two different articles. If you can print them out, great. If not, you could just view them on the screen. That's Article 1 and Article 2. You see the links on the screen right now. It's irisreading.com/article-1.pdf. That's going to be the first one that we're going to go right into. So hopefully you've got that printed out or you've got it on your screen. And what I want you to think about before we get started here is, when was the last time you actually learned how to read? And for most people, the last time they learned how to read, it was the first time they learned how to read. And that's, if you think about it, it's a little bit of a problem. It's a problem because you don't learn other things that way. Mathematics, you don't learn it once in your life. You learn it year by year through grade school and high school and even parts of college. But unfortunately, reading is like this, where most people just learn how to read once in their life. Now, I'm not saying there's a totally different way of reading. There are some things that we have to change. For example, when we were first learning how to read, we weren't really focused on speed, obviously, because first you need to learn the fundamentals before you can start reading faster. So you're past that point, obviously, right now. But we build up these old reading habits that we really need to change, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But I want you to think about this particular webinar as a way to kind of advance your reading skills. And this is by no means a Hooked on Phonics remedial reading program. You probably already read well. The goal here is to read faster. Why? Because maybe you have a ton of reading that you have to do for school or for work, or maybe there's a lot of reading that you've been wanting to do, personal reading that you haven't just gotten to. So again, make sure you have the article, because what we're going to start off with is finding out how fast you currently read. We're going to test this out right now, so I need you to make sure that you have Article 1 in front of you. It should look something like this. And what I want you to do is we're going to measure your reading speed, and the way that we're going to do it, I'm going to have a timer on the screen. It's set for 1 minute. And I want you to begin reading from the beginning of that article and read at your regular reading speed. Don't go any faster than you normally would. Don't go any slower. Just read for good comprehension. And after the minute is up, I'll explain to you how you can calculate your reading speed. So I hope you're ready to begin reading. Go ahead and begin. And stop. Okay, look at the line where you stopped. And what I want you to do is I want you to draw a line. If you have this printed out, draw a line wherever you stopped. And I need you to count the number of lines that you just read. And here's why we're going to do this. There's a few ways you could calculate your reading speed. One way is to count every single word that you just read. And let's say you read up to here. You would count every single word, and that would be a words per minute. However, we're going to measure your reading speed a few times today. So a good way to approximate your reading speed, we have this material pretty much formatted for 10 words per line. There's approximately 10 words on every single one of these lines. So I want you to simply count the number of lines you read and multiply that number by 10, the average number of words per line. However, you see lines like this, how there's only 2 words at the end. You don't have to necessarily count that as a line, but kind of guesstimate it. Just count the number of lines that you read approximately, multiply it by 10, and that is your average reading speed. Now, what is the average reading speed? The average reading speed is 150 to 250 words a minute. In case you're wondering, if you want to put one number on it, it's about 200 words a minute. Now keep in mind, this is for medium level material. Something like this would be considered medium level material. All that means is it's not too easy and it's not too hard. So average reading speed about 150 to 250. Remember earlier I mentioned there are some old reading habits that we have to discuss? Well, these are habits that, when we were first learning how to read, they were fine, but as we get, as we build up our vocabulary and we become more experienced readers, we don't necessarily have to do these things. I want to cover the 3 old reading habits that we don't necessarily have to do. And one of them is called fixation. This is where we fixate and read each and every single word. It's something your eyes do. Reading each and every single word one by one is a problem because you don't have to go one by one. You can read more than one word at a time. You're fully capable of reading groups of words. Now, when I say fully capable, that assumes that you're familiar with the English language, you've built up your vocabulary to a certain point. So I'll give you an example, because you read groups of words sometimes without realizing it. Let's say you were driving a car and you saw a sign that said New York City. 3 words, New York City. Would you fixate on 3 different words, or just fixate on a sign and see those words with your peripheral vision? I'm sure you would be able to make one fixation and read those groups of words, no problem. However, if the words New York City were on the printed page, most people would go one by one and fixate on each one. So we need to get out of this habit of fixation and start learning how to read groups of words if we're going to be reading faster. Another old reading habit is the habit of regression, and this is just going back and rereading material. All of us have done this at some point. Usually it's because of poor concentration. Sometimes our mind wanders off while we're reading. So we need to improve our concentration. We'll talk about some simple ways to do that in this webinar. And we also need to, here's another old reading habit. It's called subvocalization. Remember when you were first learning how to read, you had to read out loud. Eventually your teacher told you don't read out loud anymore, say the words silently in your head. And this voice in your head of, saying the words in your head, this is called subvocalization. Just about all readers tend to do it, and it's a problem because if you think about it, if you're reading and saying every word in your head, doesn't that mean that you'll only read as fast as you talk? And there is a limit to how fast you can talk. You could test this out on your own. We're not going to test it in this particular webinar, but if you wanted to test your reading speed out when you're reading out loud, this is essentially testing your talking speed. Most people find that it's around the same as their reading speed. Your talking speed and reading speed are around the same. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone. If you start learning how to read faster, you'll notice that your reading speed will exceed your talking speed. But most people that haven't taken a speed reading course or aren't accelerated readers, they read about as fast as they talk, and it's all because of this habit right here, subvocalization. So we need to get out of that habit of saying every word in our head because we know that limits us to only going as fast as we talk, and that's a problem because what if you were capable of reading faster than that? For example, instead of at your talking speed, at your thinking speed. I think all of us would agree your thinking speed is a lot faster than your talking speed. So we really need to get out of these 3 habits. Fixating on words, we want to get into the habit of reading groups of words. Regression, we don't want to go back as much because that takes up time. And subvocalization, we don't want to say every word in our head because that limits our reading speed. Now, how do you get better at anything? How do you get rid of these habits and change them? The way you get better at anything is really through practice. And if you've ever practiced an instrument or a sport, you know that practice involves repetition. There are various types of drills and exercises you can do. And the same thing goes for building up your reading speed. It takes practice. I'm not going to tell you one tip that will automatically double your reading speed. But I will show you how you can practice. And we're actually going to do a little bit of practice in this webinar. We're not going to do too much of it because I really want you, the best way to do these kind of practice drills is maybe 15, 20 minutes per session. I would recommend you do these sessions, once a day for 2 weeks. I'm going to show you how to do one of them right now. And you could also take one of our courses, obviously. If you want to check those out, you can go to irisreading.com. There's lots of drills and exercises in those courses. But we're going to practice one drill set today. And how are we going to practice? Well, we're going to do something called a speed drill. This is a form of practice, and a speed drill, it has a couple requirements. First of all, you have to use your hand or a pen to guide your eyes. Why do I want you to use your hand or a pen? It's because your eyes are naturally attracted to motion. So what I want you to do is go from left to right, line by line, using your finger or your hand or your eye or your pen as a guide. Now, I understand that if you're watching this, webinar online right now, and you didn't print out the articles, you might not be able to use your hand, or maybe you don't want to put it on the screen. I'll leave that up to you whether or not you want to use your hand or a pen as a guide if you're reading on the screen. If you feel comfortable putting your hand on the screen or hovering it over your screen, I'll leave that up to you. If not, there is a second requirement, and that is you have to go faster than you would normally read. Now, by the way, for those of you that are reading, if you printed out these articles, I want you to definitely use your hand or a pen to guide your eyes. If you're on the screen, I understand if you can't do it, especially if you have a touch screen. That wouldn't make sense, right? If you were watching this on your iPad, you can't really, if you use your hand, you're going to be moving around the screen. So, number 2, second requirement, is go faster than you would normally read. So, the whole point of a speed drill is to purposely go a lot faster than you would normally read. Well, how do we do that? Well, we're going to start off and we're just going to go over material that we already read. So, for example, remember this article? You read for a minute. Let's say you read for a minute and you stopped at this line right here. What I want you to do is we're going to go back to the beginning, and you're going to start from the beginning of the article, and you have to make it up to that first line right there, and you have to make it there in a little bit less time. How much time? Well, for the first drill, we read up to here in a minute. I want you to get up to that same point in 40 seconds. So I just want you to go a little bit faster. So that's the point of the speed drill. You got to use your hand if it's printed out. And by the way, I will talk about reading faster on the computer screen in a moment, but right now I want you to focus on printed material if you can. And again, if you don't have the article printed out, you could still do the drill. You might not be using your hand. That's fine, but I do want you to go faster than you would normally read. Again, how are we going to do this? We're just going to go over the same material because it's easier to go over the same material faster. But you have to go through it in 40 seconds. So I'm actually going to time you here. If you see on my screen right here, I've got a timer. And you have 40 seconds to get from the beginning of the article to that first line. Now, if you make it to that line, just go back to the beginning and keep going till time's up. I don't want you to go past the line into the new material yet. So just go from beginning all the way to that line where you ended up at earlier. So you've got 40 seconds to go there, to get there. Hopefully everyone's ready. Go ahead and begin the first drill. Let me stop you there. So that was 40 seconds. We're going to cut the time down a little bit now. I'm going to do 35 seconds. What you have to do is you have to do the same thing. Start from the beginning, and you got to get to that line where you previously read up to in a little bit less time. Now, again, some key points to remember here. Make sure that you are using your hand. If you have this material printed out, use your hand as a guide if you can. If you've got it on the computer screen, I understand you might not be able to, but it's very important when you do these drills to use your hand as a guide. And by the way, in a little bit, I'll go back to, I'll talk about reading faster on the computer screen because I know that's a lot of people do most of their reading on the computer screen. But for right now, let's focus on how we would be doing this drill in printed material. But again, even if you don't have it printed out, you're going to do this drill. I just want you to go a little bit faster. You've got now 35 seconds. So what you have to do is go from the beginning of the article to that same line you read up to in a minute, but I'm asking you to get there in 35 seconds. So just go a little faster. You absolutely have to make it to this line, even if that means you're sacrificing some comprehension. And your comprehension should be okay right now because you've already read this. So let's do 35 seconds. Got to go a little faster. Ready, set, and go. Okay, stop. So that was 35 seconds. If you made it there, very good. We're now going to switch it up to 30 seconds. So you've got to get from the beginning to that line in half the time. So 30 seconds now. Go faster than you would normally read. It's okay if you don't have perfect comprehension. Keep in mind what we're doing right now is simply a speed drill. That's it. We're not trying to get... Right now, getting perfect comprehension is irrelevant because we're not working on comprehension. We're working on our speed. I just want you to get used to seeing words faster. So we're going to do now 30 seconds. And again, you've got to go a little faster. Go from the beginning of the article. Got to get up to that line in half the time, 30 seconds. Ready, set, and go. All right, so I'll stop you there. That was 30 seconds. Now what we're going to do is make the drill even more difficult because instead of just getting to this line that we previously read up to, let's say you got up to this line, I want you now to get through the entire article. So you'll notice that this is actually a two-sided article. And there's 2 pages. I want you to get through all of the material, not just the first part that you read up to. I want you to get through absolutely everything. You've got to get through the entire article, and I'm going to give you a good amount of time. You're going to have 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, because this is a speed drill, remember we said the requirements for the speed drill are use your hand or a pen, if you can, and go faster than you would normally read. So what I'm asking you to do here is go a lot faster than you would normally read. You've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds to make it through this whole article. Is that enough time to read it for perfect comprehension? Right now, that's we're not trying to get perfect comprehension. All I want you to do is focus. Think of this as a hand-eye coordination exercise. And before we start reading faster with comprehension, we want to start by getting used to seeing words faster. So even though I'm telling you to go much faster than you would normally read, the whole idea is the same. Let's get used to seeing the words faster like that. Later on, we'll go back to regular reading. And again, keep in mind this is a form of practice. We'll do a few more drills like this. So 3 minutes, 30 seconds. You've got to get through the entire article. If you get through the whole article in time, just go back to the beginning of the article and start back over. You've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds to get through the whole thing. Ready, set, and go. All right, I'll stop you there. If you made it through the entire article, great. We're going to do one last drill like this. And again, the whole idea, even you probably felt at that point like comprehension was absolutely terrible. Why? Because I asked you to go a lot faster than you would normally read. That's okay. Again, keep in mind, we're doing speed drills here. We're not doing comprehension exercises. Right now, I just want you to go faster than you would normally read. Think of it like a hand-eye coordination exercise. We're going to do one more. Now, I wanted to take you through a mini set like this so you get an idea of how we practice this kind of a drill. We're going to do now 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Actually, you know what? Let's do 3 minutes flat. I want you to go a lot faster than you would normally read. You only have 3 minutes to get through this whole 2-page article. So again, make sure you're using your hand or a pen if you can, and you're also going much faster than you would normally read. 3 minutes to get through the entire thing. Ready, set, and go. And stop. Okay, so that's time. That was 3 minutes to get through the whole article. Now, this whole time we were doing speed drills, we're now going to go back to regular reading. So I want you now to refer to Article 2, which is the other article that you were asked to print out. It's at irisreading.com/article-2.pdf. And that article should look something like this. It's called India's Skills Famine. And what I want you to do is, I mentioned we're going back to regular reading, so I don't want you to worry about the speed drill. During the speed drill, we were going much faster than we would normally read. Now I want you to slow it down. Of course, don't go too slow, but also don't go too fast. I want you to read for good comprehension. And I want you to also use your hand or a pen as a guide. But don't go too fast and don't go too slow. I want you to read at a speed that you can actually comprehend and understand what you're reading. Now we're going to read for a minute and then we'll stop. So everyone should be ready to read. Ready, set, and go. Okay, stop. And look at the line where you stopped. You draw a line there if you want. Count the number of lines you read, just like last time. Remember, this material is formatted for 10 words per line. So I want you to take the number of lines you read and multiply it by 10, just like you did last time. And compare that number to what you had before. Again, we're taking the number of lines we read, multiplying by 10, because there's approximately 10 words per line in this material. Now, we spent about maybe 10 minutes of doing a drill. This was kind of like a mini drill, but look if you read a little faster. Some people make an improvement in this small 10 minutes of practice. Some people make a little bit of an improvement. Sometimes a little practice goes a long way. Now, if we spend a little bit more time practicing, what do you think is going to happen to your reading speed? You're going to make a little bit more of an improvement. So a little practice goes a long way. Repetition is really the mother of skill. That's how we get better at anything. Now, how does the speed drill work? The whole idea is that you're pushing yourself during the speed drill. You're purposely going a lot faster than you would normally read. And then you go back to reading regularly again, and there's this adjustment where it no longer feels as fast to go a little faster. I'll give you an example. Think about when you're driving a car on a highway, and let's say you're going on a highway, you would go faster than normal unless there's tons of traffic. But let's say you're going 70 miles an hour. And after an extended period of time, you have to get off the highway. How does it feel when you get off the highway? It probably feels a little bit slow. Why does it feel so slow? Because you got used to going a lot faster. And when you get used to going very fast, when you get off the highway, it doesn't feel as fast. The same thing goes for your reading speed. If you get used to seeing words very quickly, like we do in the speed drills, let's say you get used to seeing them at 500, 600, 700 words a minute. When we do our longer courses, the in-person and online courses, we drill students over 1,000 words a minute. And if they get their comprehension might be really low during the speed drill, but then we bring them back to regular reading, and then they notice, hey, you know what? 400 words a minute doesn't feel that fast anymore. 500 doesn't feel that fast. 600 doesn't feel that fast. The more you practice, the better you get. So that's how speed drills work. And here's how you can continue practicing on your own. You would read for a certain period of time. Let's say you read for 20 minutes, and then you would practice it in half the time. So practice doing a speed drill for 10 minutes. Or let's say you read for 30 minutes, you would practice for 15 minutes over the same material. And this actually has a dual purpose. One, you get your practice session in, and two, you're actually kind of like skimming over material you already read. So that actually helps a little bit in understanding the material a little better. Now, you can practice on your own like this. This is, by the way, keep in mind, this is one type of speed drill. There's a variety of speed drills. This is kind of like a beginner drill. If you're interested in more complex drills, more advanced drills, you can check out one of our online classes or live classes. But I do want to talk about reading faster on the computer screen, because some of you may have been watching this entirely on the computer screen. Maybe you didn't print the articles out. So what about reading faster on the screen? Because nobody really wants to be using their finger and dragging it across the screen. It's not very practical. So we actually created an application called Accelerator, and you can get it at accelerator.com. It's a free application that you can use, and I want to show you how this application works because it's very effective at helping people read faster on the screen. Let's say we have some reading material that we need to read on, one second here. Oh boy, this website is not allowing me to, hang on one second. So we take material that we want to read, and all you do, I'll go back here, you simply copy and paste your material into the text box. And after you copy and paste your text, you just click the read button. You change your settings to whatever setting you want. I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. By the way, sorry, I was trying to take some articles from The Onion, and apparently they now charge a subscription after reading 5 articles, so I apologize for that. This is just some sample text that I'm taking right now on the Accelerator website that's just pasted in there by default. But you can paste whatever material you want in here. You paste it in, and then you click the read button, and then I'm going to zoom in on the settings because there's a settings area here where you would designate how fast you want to go. So I'm going to set it at 300 words a minute, and the chunk size is how many words do you want to see at a time. We're going to leave that at 2. I'm going to hit save, and I want you to focus your attention on the middle of the screen and try to read this at 300 words a minute. Here we go. All right, so you get how that works. It basically blinks the words on the screen at a speed you set. If you are doing a lot of reading on the computer screen, I'd highly recommend you use an application like this. You can also use it for practicing. Notice how it was showing us 2 words at a time. That's a good way to practice reading groups of words. You can also change your settings to a higher speed if you feel like that was too slow, or you could change it to a lower speed if you felt like it was a little too fast. There's a number of advanced settings in here as well that you can check out. But this is accelerator.com. Use it if you do a lot of reading on the computer screen. And just so you guys know about other courses we provide more comprehensive courses on speed reading. We also have a comprehension course. If you're a business professional and you're taking speed reading because you're very passionate and interested in productivity, we have a course on productivity, how to improve your focus, how to improve your memory. If you want to organize one of these workshops at your company or school, you can email us at support@irisreading.com. You can also take these courses online if we're not offering them in your city. And if you want to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. I really hope you found this webinar helpful. And if you like what we're doing here at IRIS, please tell your friends about it. Tell your family members about it. We're trying to get these skills out to more and more people. Feel free to connect with me by email, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Again, thank you so much for attending the webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day.